8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
Good evening. It's Monday, the 7th of March, the first Monday in the merry month of March. And it's the eve of International Women's Day. And as usual, from 8:30 to 10, your program is on Your Voice with the NRP, a program sponsored by Nevis's oldest and most transformative party. We're in for an exciting night, and we've got in the house the leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, and big and bustling Rohan Isles. Now, the month of March is rolling on, which means that we are moving closer and closer to an election of the Nevis Island Assembly. Pundits are telling me it might be a year in which we have two elections, because pundits say that you don't need a candle to see that the factions of Team Unity are inescapably on a collision course. Two dates for you to watch, because you've got to be alert, you've got to be aware. The first is Sunday, March 13th, this coming Sunday. March 13th is very instructive in the annals of Caribbean history. On that date, in 1979, 43 years ago this Sunday, the New Jewel movement of Maurice Bishop ousted Grenada's first Prime Minister, Sir Eric Gairy, in the first coup d'etat in the English-speaking Caribbean. The second date to watch, 2 weeks after, March 27th. They will be instructive for the history of governance in our fair federation. We've got lots to talk about tonight with the leader of the NRP and also with Mr. Rohan Isles. So buckle down for the next hour and a half. Get close to your phone, because as always we want to hear from you. This is a very important time in our nation's history. The numbers to get in: 469-1700 and 469-1616. We'll take a break, and then we will be right back with Your Voice with the NRP.
Your voice, your voice, your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
And we're back with Your Voice with the NRP. Now, some housekeeping matters before we get into the meat of things. Now, this afternoon, Nevis laid to rest one of its favorite sons, Chesley Pharaoh Davis. Of course, on Thursday last, there was what was termed a wake, but it turned out to be more of a cultural extravaganza. The Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons spoke at that function at the St. Thomas's Community Center. And so this afternoon, as I said, Pharaoh was laid to rest. It was a very moving ceremony, and the eulogist was Halstead Sooty Byron. One of the things he said is that something should be named or renamed in honor of Chesley Davis. He mentioned the community center, he mentioned the street, he mentioned the junction going into the beautiful village of Cotton Ground. Now, in 2009-2010, then Minister of Sports, the Honorable Hensley Daniel, launched a project called Remaking Nevis in Our Own Image. It saw the naming of that stretch of road from Market Shop to Zion, the Ural Sinclair Swanston Highway. It saw the renaming of the netball complex in honor of Cicely Grell Hall and Dora Stevens. And it saw roads or streets named after Stuart Williams, Carl Tuckett, and others around our fair isle. And of course, the renaming of Grove Park after Nevis's first and the Leeward Islands' first cricketer to play for the West Indies, Mr. El Camido Tonito Willett. So, Dr. Hodge, ceremony this afternoon, very important point made by Halsey Suti Byron, himself a cultural preservationist. Is that something your incoming government would be inclined to do? Continue to honor Nivisions not only at home, but maybe abroad?
Thank you, Mr. Meadows, and good evening to you and to my colleague, Rohan Ayers, and to all who are listening here in Nevis and abroad. One of the things that we have recognized from a very long time is that it is important when you have certain expectations of people and you can recognize those persons who would have elevated themselves, not necessarily in any very glamorous way, but persons who would have had a passion for whether it is art, whether it is music, culture. It is important that the youth especially can recognize those who would have gone before. I know Mr. Freeman in Gingerland is someone that many of us now who maybe before were not aware of his contributions, we are now aware because of his contributions being memorialized. And so Pharaoh, of course, is right in that caliber. And I think Mr. Byron was right on point when he said that the great Pharaoh should be recognized and memorialized. And this is definitely in keeping with our thrust with regards to appreciating our natural resources and appreciating those who would have contributed to making Nevis nice and to making Nevis what it is. And so someone like Pharaoh, who, I was at the funeral, I couldn't get inside. There were so many persons who came out to be a part of this occasion, because as much as it was a funeral and there was mourning and there were those who were grieving, persons actually saw it as a moment in history for Nevis where we can be a part of the great Pharaoh and what he would have contributed. And so we're very much in line with when persons, we live based on our tourism industry. And when people come to a destination, they would want to know what is unique about this place. And when we can recognize our cultural icons in such a way that people can come and learn about how they contributed, I think that is quite significant. And it's definitely along the lines of what the NRP would want to do in government, is to allow persons to learn and to understand how Nevis was able to grow and develop and have an identity. And so definitely I would say that if it is not done before, I am hoping that it would be done as soon as possible. But if it is not done when NRP gets into government, you can be assured that there would be the necessary steps taken to ensure that our great Chesley Pharaoh Davis is recognized.
Now, Rohan, in an earlier appearance, you said how good and how pleasant it would have been if the CCM administration had moved ahead with the plans to build the fisheries complex in Charlestown. Youth said that it would be a fitting memorial to the work that Mr. Carlton Tyson, who is yet to be buried, has done on the island of Nevis. He was a revolutionary in the fishing industry. It must have been heartwarming for you to hear what Suti said this afternoon. Of course, St. Thomas's Ports comes up on Wednesday, and for the first time in many years, you won't have Chesley Pharaoh alongside you. I hope you guys will observe a minute's silence, but that will definitely be a moment over at St. Thomas's as the Jolly Green Giants take to the track. Have you given thought to what should be named after Pharaoh, your colleague on the commentary panel?
That's a tough one. Pharaoh has many things. We can remember Pharaoh very well as an iconic sports commentator. Pharaoh was a document specialist in terms of culture and all other things. I remember Pharaoh doing a presentation for me back in my day as a teacher at St. Thomas's Primary on bush medicine. And I found that very interesting. The children enjoyed it thoroughly. I am always one to put forward that people should get their honor when they're living. I think for too long now we seek to recognize people when they can't see or enjoy the gratification and the honor that we are seeking to bestow upon them. I understand that in time sometimes life is as it is, fleeting moments, and as that be that as it may, what could we name after Pharaoh, and how do we get to a position where we are truly giving honor to what we are naming after him? I mean, and so whatever it is that we seek to give to the good gentleman, I hope that it is fit for purpose with regards to his contribution in whatever area that we are seeking to do so, and to do so in a manner that allows, as the party leader said, those who are coming behind to have an honest and a complete understanding of who the gentleman was. I know many of us are going to remember him from sports, and the iconic phrase to "Who are you pick me off the track?" But he, as I said, he was so much more, and somber moments in reflection of Pharaoh, as you said. We worked together most times at Interprime. The life commentary, he was trackside, but you talk about sports, and you're always eager to get the not just for the athletics, but Pharaoh is taking a mic, the atmosphere is going to be completely different. And so on Wednesday, that is truly going to be missed. There won't be any Pharaoh to bring sports alive in so many different ways with its stories and connecting past and present athletes and connecting parents to students and just making you feel that it is just so much more than just a sports meet. And we want to continue to share our condolences with his family and to let them know that our prayers and our thoughts are with them. And so I can't speak for what is going to happen. I am sure that there will be some remembrance of Pharaoh on Wednesday at St. Thomas's Primary School Sports, and should there be an interprime, I suspect there would be an even greater recognition and appreciation of what he had done for not just St. Thomas's, but for the wider Nevis community.
Well, as a commentator myself, every commentator has a catchphrase.
Yeah.
And I want to suggest to you that don't allow that catchphrase to die with him. When you're mic side on Wednesday, use it a couple of times. And that will pull at the heartstrings and let everybody know that even though he's not with us physically, that he's looking down on us because he loved sports and he loved culture so much. Yep. But as you and Janice spoke, it dawned on me that maybe a first good step would be to make him the patron at the 2022 Culturama. We've been without a full-fledged Culturama for 2 years. Last year we had something virtually up at the David Freeman, but the gates are being thrown back a little bit. And Abenati, if you're listening, I'll speak with you after this program. Maybe one of the first good steps would be to make him patron of Culturama 2022. But as we speak about that, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, sports is back. I saw you looking very sporty at the St. James's Primary Sport. I think everybody's happy that children will be able to release some of their pent-up emotion brought on by COVID and be able to exercise their abilities on the track?
Sports definitely is a major attraction here in Nevis, and I am one who would have had my time in sports. I was on Red House. That is not the reason why
you were wearing red.
Why I was wearing red. I was wearing red because it was St. James's Primary School, and during the inter-primary competitions, they wear red. And also because I participated in a female cricket tournament representing St. James's, and our shirt would have been red. And so definitely sports is a very important part of any school curriculum. We recognize that it's not just about the academics. We understand that the sports really has a long way to go. And sports is something that the NRP has looked at, and we recognize the abundance of talent that we have here in Nevis, and we must be able to capitalize on that natural talent and develop or provide the opportunities so that our students can really excel and have opportunities to gain scholarships and to really pursue their dreams, so to speak. And so I'm very much, an avid sports fan. I love pretty much all sports, and I can hold my own in a couple.
In a couple.
In a couple, yes. And so I'm really looking forward for us to be able to organize all of the sporting events that we have here in Nevis, from the drag racing to bringing back the horse racing to the cross-channel swim, and really highlighting and climaxing for our inter-primary sports, which is something that everybody really looks forward to. And so I'm very much interested in our sports and looking at our potential athletes. We just don't know who would be the next El Camino Willett. We don't know who is going to be the next Kerwin Wallace, and Tony Nisbet, and all of these different sports. Everybody's is doing a little bit on their own, trying to advance. But my position is under the NRP government. We really want to take sports to a next level where we can really expand our tourism product and have sports being one of the major anchors of our tourism, like I said, the tourism products, so that people can really come in and see the talent that we have here and provide opportunities for our youths to be able to advance in many different ways. And so you've seen me at St. James's, and you'll see me at many more, because it's just something that I love. It's a natural love for me, and so no one has to ask me, once or twice or three times. I won't be able to attend all because of other obligations, but once there is sports, you can bet your bottom dollar that I will be there.
Rohan, I saw you at the Mondo track for Joycelyn Library Primary. First, tell us how the folks up at Gingerland are looking. And I was shocked no end when the next morning I saw Kerwin Wallace, the aforementioned, highlighting on Facebook a memento he had received from Joycelyn Library. A young Kerwin Wallace, our first Olympian, has retired. You've had many tussles with him, and I'm sure you'd like to pay tribute.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised myself.
Everybody must have been surprised
that he had retired. But I guess he felt that it was his time to move away. Yeah, we have had many tussles and tussles from E.T. Willett Park to now the Mondo Surface. But Kerwin has always been one to support athletics, and he did so not just with his students at Joycelyn Library Primary School. Wherever he went and he felt that he had some information or some tips that he could pass on for the betterment of students, he did so. And so the sport, if I may say, is going to miss him. I don't know if he's out completely or if he has just left primary school, but tremendous individual when it comes to athletics, and it's for me. I was lost. I mean, I just didn't connect that he was going to leave and leave that early. But I guess, maybe when I see him, I can get a better understanding of why he left. But Kerwin meant a lot to the sport. He contributed a lot to the sport. I mean, as a first Olympian, athletes were able to get first hand from an Olympian his experiences, and they were able to say, I was coached by an Olympian, and it must have inspired many young people. And that is the hope that the NRP holds, that when we begin to put our hands to the plow in terms of sports development, we are not just developing sports for developing sports, but they're fit for purpose, and that young people can participate in our plans and in our programs that have long-lasting and long-reaching implications, that we can be able to provide scouting opportunities, and we can be able to provide professional development. And so we're not just looking to provide the facilities, we're looking to put programs in place that are going to produce more Olympians, and we can add to the list of Kerwin Wallace and Maritza Williams, and the Keith Athertons and the Carl Pickett's and the Stuart Williams and Tonito and El Tomedo and the Diana Browns and the Lydia Claxton and Cecilia Grell Hall, and the list goes on and the list goes on. And we want them to get to a point where they're breaking barriers again, and that we are seeing our youngsters down under in Australia playing fast 5 netball, or we are seeing our youngsters playing county cricket at a higher level again, or we are seeing our young men in IPL, or women in Big Bash, or young players in the NBA or NFL. That is the hope that this party has for our young people when it comes to sports, and looking at sport as a means to providing for their families and creating that generational wealth that is going to extend beyond the now and well into the future. And so we want to thank people like Kerwin Wallace, who would have laid that early foundation, and to wish him a very short retirement. We want him to come back out, and hopefully he will rejoin and continue to give of his talent and his expertise.
You see, a lot of youngsters may not know this, that there was a time when Kerwin Wallace would beat Kim Collins.
Yeah.
At one time, he was the fastest.
I don't think Kim has ever beaten him. There's a story.
But I know in before Kim Collins really burst on the scene in a big way, that Kerwin Wallace was his forerunner.
Yeah.
Of course, they've had their epic battles, and then the government of Sir Kennedy Simmons launched Mission Atlanta, which would mean it's the first time that St. Kitts Nevis would be represented at an Olympics. And of course, Kerwin was well on his way. I think they went to, it could have been somewhere in Central or South America, probably Mexico. And it would be so nice to hear from Kerwin Wallace tonight, as we applaud you for all you've done in the field of sports. But he pulled up with his Achilles heel, which put paid to his participation in the Olympics. And of course, you mentioned Maritza Williams. So proud of her. Of course, she went to San Diego State University in San Diego, a school that my son now attends in his final semester, in fact, graduating in May. And I tell him the stories of Maritza Williams, and she's very proud of it as well. When I made a post about it, she chimed in and said, "Oh, I went to that school too." Of course, the alma mater of the great Kawhi Leonard of the Los Angeles Clippers. So we want to be proud of our people.
Yep.
And I'm sure, Janice, you want to add your commendation to Kerwin Wallace.
Absolutely. I was not aware that he retired.
It took us all by surprise.
Yes, and I can remember quite vividly when my children were attending then it was the Chatsworth Preparatory School, now the Mort Cross School, and of course we were in Zone B, but all eyes were on the big purple machine coming out of Gingerland, and it was amazing. I can remember when they won the championship. It was so much excitement, and you can see the pride that he exuded, knowing that he would have worked hard with his students, and so, like we said, it's sometimes it's not just who you practice with, but it's how they're able to motivate you and to know. I usually make a quote that my father would have used many times. what man has done, man can do. And when you have someone so close to you, and you know that they would have excelled to reach such heights, that this is something that you can do as well. And so, like my colleague Ohana, we don't know the circumstances, of course, but he's definitely someone who would have, and I'm sure can continue to contribute a lot, if not actually on the field, but in terms of motivating the youths to let them know. People often say that we're small, but we're Talawa, and don't let our size define our expectations and our limits, etc. So I would just like to say congratulations to Kerwin Wallace for all that he would have done for sports. He was definitely a force to be reckoned with. And some coaches may be happy that he's not there now, but definitely I know the children at his school would miss him greatly. But knowing Kerwin as I know him, I'm sure that he would have, taken the necessary steps to ensure that his students can still perform at their optimal level. And so I would just hope that our athletics can continue to grow and really get to that point again where Nevis is recognized for the natural talent that we have and can put us on the map with regards to athletics in all sectors. Yeah.
Kerwin, if you're listening, and I know you must be on a Monday night, everybody does, give us a quick call. We'd like to hear from you, your storied career as an athlete, and of course as a coach of the Purple Giants out of Gingerland. We're heading up to the top of the hour. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will switch gears.
But the economy is broken, the government stick, and the opposition come and take a seat. The debt is high and employment's low, and it's the poor people who taking the blow. I say we tired, we need a revolution. We just can't depend on vaccination. I say we tired, time to pick myself off the floor. Just remember people matter more. So when you hear them talking bull on the radio, people used to matter more. Whether you red, blue, orange or yellow, people used to matter more. But when they needed us for last election, we were always the first option. But now they in and they comfortable, people don't matter no more. Boy, some people may not like this, but people used to matter more. RTC and them better slogan out of it. People used to matter more.
We're back, and the word is that Janice cares. She wants, with her Nevis Reformation Party, to make Nevis nice again. As I said at the top of the show, tomorrow will be commemorated as International Women's Day. It is designated by the United Nations to commemorate the cultural, political, and socio-economic achievements of women, to raise awareness about women's equality, and lobby for accelerated gender parity. I don't think there's anybody better placed than the leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, to speak about women's affairs. She is the first female leader of a major political party in St. Kitts and Nevis, and she should go into the Guinness Book of Records, because I don't think that there is any place in the world where there has been a slate of candidates 80% female. Well done, Janice. Tell us about women's affairs.
Well, women's affairs, I would say at the top, we really look at societal affairs, and we are of the view that women are positioned in such a way that they have a much broader lens in terms of what really matters in a society in order for us to be sustainable, in order for us to have a better standard of living, and in order for us to really...
Hold your thought. I think we've got a caller on the line. Oh, we lost it. Hopefully it's Kerwin Wallace calling in. We can have a little chit chat. I think the person is back. Good evening, caller.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Man. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. You've shocked us, man. You left us in a state of shock.
I don't understand what I was listening to the program earlier, but I came up my vehicle and I came upstairs, so I just started tuning again and listen.
Okay, well, on Friday morning, as I always do when I get up, I go onto Facebook to see what's trending. And there you are with a post saying that you were surprised because you were presented with a memento by the Joycelyn Library Primary School.
Yeah.
I read the text and I couldn't believe it, so I put my spectacles on and found out that the very young age of whatever it is, you have retired. Tell us what's the scoop.
Well, let's call it, I don't know, you could call it retirement really, but because when you hear the word retirement, you think you stop working and you're going to relax on a beach somewhere. But it's not really that. It's just that I've retired from the civil service because I have some aspiration, and I'll be quite frank, after 33 years, it seems like, I try to make my contributions with sports is concerned and to the country in any way I can, building up as a carpenter, doing and those kind of stuff. But I told myself, after 33 years and it looks like you're still climbing up a hill, I say, maybe it's time for me to move on and do some stuff that I like on my own and get back into my workshop, spend more time with the fitness and everything, and, spread my wings a little bit more, because it doesn't make any sense to be one place and nothing seems to be happening. I was really surprised, though, at the sports meet when I got the award, and I was, to be honest with you, I got emotional. I felt really honored and humbled because I told myself, okay, I left and that's it. Nobody seemed to care much, so I said, okay. But to be honest with you, I was really blown away. Even just 2 weeks ago, the Montessori school that I'm doing some little part-time PE sessions for did similar, did a good write-up about nation builders, and I felt really honored, in just such short space of time, like 2 weeks being there. But yes, Mr. Manners, I just decided to move away from what you would want to call maybe the norm or maybe monotony, and just try to get some stuff done that I would really love to do, and continue building, of course, the nation, because I'm back in my workshop. I'm more into the fitness industry now, good health and good fitness, the fitness industry, sorry. I'm still coaching, so I'm basically involved in everything I was doing. It's just that I am more free to do more stuff that I want to do. So that's basically it. I wouldn't say it's retirement from work, it's just retirement from the civil service. That's basically what I was thinking.
Expected, you're too young to retire. But there's nothing wrong with seeking for new horizons. We applaud you on that, and we're going to be following your exploits. For those of our audience, those Nevisians who are too young to know, take us back to the early 90s when you were the sprint king of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Well, I was just thinking of being up to just yesterday, I was telling somebody, it seems like a lot of people don't know, but yes, back in the 90s, the late 90s, early 2001, 2002, when I was basically the top athlete in the federation, one of the top athletes in the Caribbean, and the number one athlete in the Leeward Islands. I've captured the Leeward Islands track and sprint title, had it for a number of years. I held the all-time record in the OECS for about 15 years until that guy Hughes who runs for England now.
Zalel Hughes.
Yes, broke it, and the record was there for like 15 years. And being one of the top athletes in the federation for a number of years. Of course, I didn't get the opportunity that Kim got, but I was there back in the day doing my thing and so forth. And that's one of the reasons why I went to the school, because I really wanted to instill some of the stuff I got as an athlete to help them also to reach my level of sprinting and my level in track and field and get to travel the world and to make it to the Olympics. I mean, it's just unfortunate that up to now, no one else has gone to the Olympics as a male. I think myself and Marissa would have been the only two who would have made it to the Olympics. And I think up to this point, I would have still been the only one who have gone to the World Championship and competed in the 100, the 200, and the 4x1 relay for Pinkett meters. So, you know, I love track and field. I love what I did back then, and I still love what I'm doing now. And just to jump a little bit and say that my nephew, Kamali Newton, I see him being the next division Olympian male. I really do, because he's really running good. There's some other youngsters who I train who have some real potential, but you know, lack of certain resources, and so you know, it's a little bit problem for us. But we're still pushing, and we're not giving up because of that. We're still using what we have and so forth. But I'm telling you, back in the 90s, early 2000, I mean, I was always there doing what I love, traveling, representing Federation of Thinking Community in track and field. And then shortly after, like 2005, I decided to just come out and give back some of what I received in terms of experience to the youngsters.
Okay, well, we'll certainly remember the name of young Newton. We'll keep a track on him. Tell us about the mission to Atlanta and the frustration you had.
Well, you know, you're taking me way back, Mr. Manners, but I remember very well when, and you know, I don't know if these are all coincidence. I remember back then when I was training for the Olympics. I remember I had to get up like 4:30 in the morning and then train again like 4:30 in the afternoon. And little on no resources, I just got up, gone up to the mountain, and up the hill of Hamilton where the mill is, and past the mill, run back down, go to the park, train on the grass, track shoes, not enough, not proper, but I did what I had to do. I mean, I got to say thanks to Mr. Blackett back then, who was really coaching me back then, you know, but then after I was able to go outside the Pinkett Mills to Jamaica to train for the Olympics under Mr. Glenn Mills, Usain Bolt's coach back then, and then travel to the States to train and to be totally focused on my goal. Isolate myself a little bit from family and friends and even the country, just to be focused on my goals in terms of being an Olympian and a world champion and so forth. So it was like a bittersweet moment at the outdoor time. It was like good in the sense that I was selected as part of the training squad. A bitter in the sense that it was really such a challenge, training and doing what I had to do with little or no resources. But I don't even know if I could blame anyone, but I don't know. Back then it much could have been done, but I wish it could have. But now that we have, I think, more resources, I still think there's a lack of support where track and field is concerned for our youngsters. I mean, some effort is being made, but I think it's not, I don't know if it's priority, as I would speak. I could be wrong with my statement, but you know. But back then I had a determination. I tell myself, no matter what, I'm going to make it to the Olympics, and I want to be one of the first to make it to the Olympics. And one of the sad things back then, I was only in division, and I did not let that prevent me, because I said, if I'm going to be the only division, I'm going to just train as hard as I can and just make my way to the Olympics. I mean, my first international meet, world class meet, was World Championship, Pan American Games, sorry, and then the World Championship of the same year, 1995, Pan American Games in Guatemala, and then the World Championship in Sweden. I was able to run personal best. I ran personal best times at those 2 meets. That in itself is an accomplishment. People think that the pressure I had back then was, make sure you win the gold medal, make sure you win the gold medal or the silver medal or the bronze medal. But remember, not that I was belittling where I came from in terms of small mind mentality, but coming from this part of the world, not exposed to rubber track and all this type of stuff, you know, it was kind of hard to do such. But I just wanted to progress in running a personal best, making it to the rounds and so forth. So those are some of the stuff I accomplished. I mean, we were able to win medals as a team. I think it's maybe team, which I was all in division, but an individual medal at an international, I think one of the biggest medals I've won is on a Caribbean level, gold medal on a Caribbean level, but I was not able to win a gold medal or silver medal I've won internationally, only as a team. So those were accomplishments for me as well.
Okay, well, Dr. Daniel Hodge and Rowan Isles applauded you while you were not on the line, so I'm going to give them a minute to say praise to you directly. Daniel Hodge.
Well, as I said earlier, Mr. Wallace, I can recall when you came on the field with your purple team. At that time, my children were at the Chesley Preparatory School, and the energy that you brought really inspired a lot. I mean, people spoke about Kerwin Wallace and the Gingerland Primary School for a number of years. But what I gathered from you and being around you is the fact that you're really a motivator for a lot of children, and it's very important for our youths to understand that being an Olympian is something that is within their reach. It is something that someone from Nevis has done before, and it is something that they can aspire to. And as we have indicated, sports, we think, is a very big part of our development, and we can really incorporate it into our tourism product in a significant way. And even though you may be retired from the track and field at the primary school level, I'm certain that you'll be able to contribute a lot to help us to get to sports to where you envision it and where you would have liked to see it, recognizing that we must value the natural talent that we have here. So congratulations for what you would have accomplished over the years, and continue to motivate and be a motivator for our youths, and be that symbol and be that icon that they can look to and say, you know, he did it, and so I can do it as well. So congratulations, and look forward to working with you, because I'm sure that there's a lot that you can contribute, and with the right environment to advance our sports the way that we know that it should be advanced and how we would like it to be advanced, I'm sure that you'll be able to contribute a lot to that.
Rohan, kudos to your fierce competitor. Don't go yet. Rohan Isles is here.
Yes.
Well, you know, Kerwin, as I was saying, congratulations on your retirement. I'll say again, I wish you a short retirement. Hopefully we can find a way to draw you back to where I believe you have much more to contribute. One of the things I admire about Kerwin Wallace, the coach, is that even in competition, you're never selfish about your knowledge of athletics. You're always willing to share and to have frank discussions on how your competitors could advance. St. Thomas is no doubt benefited from a lot of those conversations. I don't know who's up. I don't know if it's me or you, but we'll pick up that the next time you come back to the sport. So congratulations and enjoy your retirement.
Kerwin, thank you so much for calling in, and tell the world that you heard it here first. When the National Stadium is finally completed, we call it the Mondo track, but that's only the track. When the National Stadium is finally completed, there can be no more fitting vision after whom it can be named. The Kerwin Wallace National Stadium. How does that sound? Does it have a good ring to it?
Sounds awesome. I'm getting goosebumps now. It's an awesome feeling. I mean, I can be there really fast. I mean, first, Leroy Island to make the rest of the team. So, as we said, give jacket. I'm just waiting for the time. If it don't come, well, we'll see what happens.
Thank you so much for giving us a few moments of your time. And some people said retirement means that you put on your tires on your shoes, but I know you'll never take them off.
No, they will never come off. I'm always going to be involved and everything. So thank you very much for giving me these few minutes to just speak a little bit, and I really appreciate it. And like I said, as I said at the stage at the track last week, I would always support sport of track and field and sports in general, but I'm a little biased to track and field, of course, and I would always support the youngsters and helping them to accomplish their goal as a track star.
Thank you very much, and be assured that with Dr. Daniel Hodge and her NRP, people really matter more. They're going to make it happen. So good night, Janice. You were talking about women, and you had to make a very quick switch to Kerwin Wallace. We're so happy he was able to call in, and it's all what we're about.
Absolutely.
You know, lifting people up.
Yes.
Giving kudos where it is deserved, and I felt obliged to really have him call in. I'm so happy that he did.
And what this has done is, we started speaking about International Women's Day, and of course, the United Nations theme is gender equality today, sustainable
For sustainable tomorrow.
for sustainable tomorrow.
Mhm.
And as we're speaking about sports, we know that there are some sports where it is sort of stereotypical that these are male sports. I can recall growing up, football was not a girl sport at all. Cricket was not a girl sport. And as we see how time change, and we see you have a female cricket team, you have a female football team, and females given the opportunity to participate in sports and given the support the same way that males are given. These are the types of things that we need to look at to ensure that we can have a sustainable future. And so, many females sometimes, their male counterparts will be able to go to practice, but the females, they need to go home and to help with the dishes or to help with household chores. And these are the things that we recognize, once you have the talent and once you're willing and able, that you should not be put into a stereotype and not be allowed to advance and to capitalize on your natural talents. And so with looking at International Women's Day and what it stands for, it's really to be able to look at the world that we have right now across all sectors, whether it's sports, whether it's agriculture, whether it's engineering, whatever you look at, you now look at it as a level playing field where, regardless of gender, each one is able to participate in a certain level. And so this is something that we are, as women, we are quite happy that you have this period set of time, and just like most of the other reasons that we have to set some time aside to recognize the importance of certain elements in our community. What this allows us to do is to look at where you would have had some female achieving in certain areas, and also look at what is required, what are some of the things that can be done to ensure that females are included in the building of societies. And we can look at a number of different areas where we know that there is gender bias, and where we know that a lot can be done. And once we're able to have that lens where you can incorporate females as much as possible, then you would have a much more balanced society. And as the saying goes, basically, that once everybody has an equal opportunity to participate, then you have a much more sustainable outcome at the end of the day. And so I'm quite pleased that we will be looking at International Women's Day tomorrow, which is actually the day that is set aside. I will be participating in a panel discussion. It's going to be with the Studio 327 Inc. It's a relatively new group spearheaded by females, and there's a program called Good Morning SKN, and it would be starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. And from the St. Kitts end, we would have Minister Akila Byron Nisbet, Senator Dr. Joel Clark, Dawn Williams, Lorraine Gums, and Dr. Marissa Grant Tate. And then on the Nevis end, you would be hearing from Minister Hazel Brandy Williams, Shaletta Gums Brown, Dr. Kamara Louisi, Labriska Phillip, and myself. And so asking persons to join in and listen. You'll see different perspectives, because even though we are all females, we all bring a wide array of experiences and different perspectives to speak on different issues that we have to look at. And so I'm inviting everyone to listen in tomorrow morning for that show. And like I said, when we look at International Women's Day, and actually the entire month is to celebrate women, but tomorrow in particular is International Women's Day. We know that the Department of Gender Affairs here has an entire program set up, which is, quite commendable. And one of the things that we have to start doing is to recognize that in many different sectors, and one of the areas that we look at quite closely is in the area of agriculture. We speak a lot about food security. We know that women are the ones who generally do the cooking, but they're not necessarily involved in the preparation of crops, etc. And nowadays, with the so much technology available and the different roles that women can play, it is important to make those opportunities available so that women can participate in a broad cross-section of activities. And one of the things that we would know is that when women are involved in certain activities, the productivity is much greater. And that is so generally because women are generally more committed.
Hold it there. We've got our second caller for the evening. Good evening, caller.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening to the panelists.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just want to touch briefly on the broader lens when it comes to women. And I would first like to say to the listening public, I am not political. I am not, I don't necessarily support a party, so I don't want anyone to label me, but I support the aspirations of certain individuals because I think that they can deliver. I want to put that out there first and foremost. Where I live right now, there's a ravine at the back. And some years ago, we could have walked, because there was a broad piece of level land where we could have walked we could have walked that area of land because it was flat and the edge of the ravine was a little away from it. Now, when I go to the back there, the road has almost totally disappeared. As a matter of fact, the neighbor's fence almost at the edge of the ravine. Okay? Now, I say this because when I look at Rollins Road, right? If Steve would remember the house that was in the valley right there, the Library.
Oh, yes. Albany Library.
Right. The Pinchy Place. Remember the Dason Pinchy Place?
Oh, we all had that when we went to primary school.
Right. So, that house belonging to the Library, it was on level land. The ravine was behind them. It was also a mango tree going up the road. You understand?
Yeah.
The level land has disappeared because of erosion, and undercutting when you have heavy rain. The Pinchy Place has disappeared. I mean, you don't see any place here where a house could have been because of erosion. Right? No. We have a women's group in need in Gingerland. We have registered Gingerland Women's Veggie Flow. We started it with the intention of doing organic farming. And because Mrs. Henville, Evelyn Henville, approached us about starting a tower farming entity, project. Okay, so what I did, I spoke with Alice Watts at Jeff, inquiring whether or not she, they would be amenable to funding such a project. She said yes, and so on, that we should set it up, get the project written up and send it to her. So we were looking at a venue, an outlet from which to do the marketing. And so I approached the government, entities within the Ministry of Agriculture, asking about the Gingerland market. Now, initially I was told by the person I approached that he didn't have a problem with it, and so on. So I waited. Months and months and months passed, and Ms. Watts was calling and asking, well, what's happening with the project? She sent me an email, what's happening with the project, and so on. So I went back to the government and I asked, well, what is happening? Because you said yes. They even asked whether or not we would allow them to partner with us. And I said, sure, absolutely. Well, when I returned to get an answer, the individual said to me that the consensus was that they were not going to give us a lease because we were asking for a lease, because you need a lease in order to approach a funding agency, because you have to show security of tenure. So I was told that, there were entities who said no, because if they gave us a lease, we would be in a position to prevent other persons from using the market, and it is a public market. Okay? No. My take on the matter was this. Since you do not want us, because basically what we were thinking is that anyone in Nevis who wanted organic farming, vegetables grown organically, could make a beeline for the Gingerland market. Those who want vegetables, who don't mind vegetables that are conventionally grown, they could go to the Charlestown market. That was our intention. So, when the government, put out that reasoning why they, denied the issue of the lease, my take on the matter was this, that, okay, so you want all and sundry to be there, so you fix the market. You fix the market. You have public works. You fix the market. And so we pulled away from the project. Now, another intent behind the project was that, some of the women and so on, they didn't want to take leadership role. But there's this guy from Rollins. His name is Ken Freeman. And I know Ken. Ken worked for me when I had the nursery over at Chesley. This is a young guy who is self-assured. He has potential, and this guy is strong. Mentally strong. He can stand his ground in any situation. I can tell you, because that was my assessment of him when he worked for me at Catesby. I can recall one time we were doing. I was doing floral arrangement for Mother's Day and so on, and he came into the office there and so on, and in no time he picked up the principles, of what we were doing and so on. So this guy is quick, and he has presence. So my intention was to get Ken involved into the group and so on, because I pinpointed him as the president. I was the president at the time, but my intention was to move aside and let him assume the role of the president. And with that, I thought, I envisaged that the other guys, those guys who see selling up Rollins Road, that he would have pulled them in with him. I went as far as to include him on the chat, because I wanted him to know exactly what was, happening and so on. Because he indicated an interest and so on. But when the government said no, everything kind of fell apart, and so on. So when I see the guys, clean up Rollins Road, and they did a fantastic job.
They did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a fantastic job. But responsible representative of the government, when they saw that, anybody with any training in agriculture, urban development, or anything like that would have understood the implications of such an action. And what they should have done, what probably should have been done, is to pull the guys aside and say, hey guys, we can't allow you to do this. You know, I mean, this is good. We love what you're doing, but this is the scenario. These are the implications. You will have undercutting, you will have erosion. Pretty soon, Rollins Road may disappear, and we would have to put up a retaining wall and all that sort of stuff and try and find some place. Help the guys find a place to market their product, because it's not an easy thing to farm and have stuff and you can't get them sell. It's not an easy thing, I can tell you. It's not an easy thing. So what should have been done is that somebody with some vision should have pulled the guys aside and say, come on, listen, let's work together and let us see if we can help you with that venue. Because, you know, the guys them started right there by that avocado tree. That's where they started. And from there, they transitioned into Charlestown. And seemingly, I don't know if it wasn't working, but they're back out here and so on. Those guys, they have ambition. They're enterprising. And I wish that certain entities would see the potential in our youth and reach out to help them. That's I mean, ravines are under the umbrella of the government. But you know, and they should have known that this is something that, you know, really shouldn't have been done. I understand the reason why the guys are doing it, and I don't blame them. I want them to understand I don't blame them. I would cast whatever negative feelings or thinking that I entertain. It wouldn't be directed at them, but at the people who should have vision, who say they're trained and so on in certain fields and should have understood the implications of what has been done. And, you know, that is one of the things. There's a shortage of help for young people. And that is something that needs addressing. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for laying this out. Dr. Daniel Hodge, distressing to hear. And Rowan, of course, it's in your constituency, so I'll come to you as well. That is a distressing scenario. Am I getting an indication we've got another caller? No, not at the moment. Dr. Hodge.
Well, I have always said, Mr. Manners, that Usain Bolt is a very quick runner, very fast, but if he doesn't know the direction in which he ought to go, then it's all for naught. You must know the direction in which you are going. And one of the things that we have identified as critical to the sustainable development of Nevis is food security and what is required in order for us to gain food security. And as the caller mentioned about agriculture and what needs to be done, if there's no framework in place, if people do not understand how they can be a part of this larger vision or where we're going, then you have everybody doing their own little piece without understanding how this comes together. And so you end up having, I mean, what is being said is almost a situation that we had where you had over in Arcades Bay, you had farmers in conflict with each other because there was no clear understanding of how each person would fit into the overall program. And so this is something that we have to look at as leaders who have, the best interest of the people at heart. It's not so much about you, but what can you put in place to ensure that everyone is empowered and everyone is in a position where they can carry out their passion and feel that they are contributing. As the caller said, someone who would have, farmed and now, they have the products, but it's a struggle for them to, offload them to get them sold. And so when you have a system in place and you understand, you have some persons that are dealing with harvesting, you have some people who are dealing with, trimming or whatever. You have some people dealing with marketing. You must understand the overall system and where each person can fit into that system. It's not everybody who is interested in agriculture would want to do marketing, or would want to do the bookkeeping or the account, etc., or would want to get their hands dirty, or would want to do the pruning. And so once you're able to identify who has a passion for which particular area, and you're organizing that way, then you'll be amazed to see how you can have a system that is running efficiently, and everybody feel at the end of the day that they did something that is worthwhile, and they're part of, developing a food security program here in Nevis. And so at the end of the day, it's really understanding what needs to be put in place in order to have people contribute in a productive and effective way. This is something that we're not seeing. We're not seeing it in any of the agricultural areas, so to speak, because there's really no care and attention to help persons develop a more productive livelihood based on what it is that they want to do. And without that guidance, and without that framework, and without those policies in place as to how things should operate, then you would have this sort of everybody doing their own thing, and some persons will be able to know, and this is not necessarily the right way to do it, but you don't want to offend someone else, and so people just lose the hope and the enthusiasm to contribute, and so you have this kind of lackadaisical situation. But understanding that what the overall picture is, and everybody understanding how they can contribute, and that what they're doing is a worthwhile part of the equation, I think that is what needs to be really put in place so that people can contribute in a meaningful way.
Ron, you've got your work cut out so that there's more strategic planning and more community cohesiveness.
Yeah, I mean, still really, if you're in tune and you're in touch and you're in contact with people, then things like these would not necessarily happen. Of course, the gentlemen are trying to find ways of surviving, especially in the economic times that we're in. I know that they intended no environmental harm to the area. They're just trying to find ways of making a living. As the lady said, it's difficult to offload your agricultural produce if there isn't a program that allows you to produce, and government takes at fair market value what you would have produced. That has to be part of the plan. If you're going to encourage backyard farmers and encourage young people to farm, you've got to give them assistance every step of the way, and that is part of a program that we're hoping to launch in Gingerland as well. Our approach is a holistic one from start to finish, understanding where our people are, where they want to go, and how we can get them there. When you look at the Gingerland public market, and I had the opportunity to go there a few weeks ago, one wouldn't necessarily want to go there to ply any trade. And so that is part and parcel of the reason why I am sure the young men found it necessary to clear an area. Of course, you see it, and aesthetically it looks beautiful, and they may not necessarily understand the environmental impact that could have, not just on the guts below, but on the establishment as well. Of course, you would know better than I that is a gut coming from higher up, and so if you do certain things, then there are implications there. We want to be able to set up our people for sustained prosperity. I've said that from day one, and I continue to say it. And we want to ensure that our plans are fit for purpose. We want to ensure that our young people are engaged meaningfully, and that the hard work that they are putting in reaps reward, and not just for today. And I've said this and I say it again. We are on a mission, so to speak, to create a new type of generational wealth, one that allows our people to enjoy the fruits of their labor today, that their children can enjoy tomorrow, and that their grandchildren can enjoy it beyond that. And we can only do that if we are in tune with what is happening now, and that we're in touch with our people, and that we are listening and understanding what their frustrations are. And that
hold it for a while, Rohan. We've got another caller on the line. Good evening, caller.
Not another one, and the same one.
The same one.
Yeah, I just wanted to enlarge a bit on what I said in terms of the plans for the market. We already had somebody who would have done the drawings, for the refurbishing of the structure, and she's somebody who is versed in writing projects and so on. And what she explained was that even if one funding agency only gives us a part, of the funds needed, then after we have done that, we could have approached another. So the intention was to have the market, a place, because I'm sure those guys do organic gardening. I am almost certain it's organic gardening they're doing. So they would have fitted in there perfectly. And then we were thinking of going up and maybe put, a place upstairs where you can do braiding, ladies can come and do their nails and all that kind of stuff, and sort of created a hub. You remember, Steve? Mm-hmm. Market shop used to be a hub, for the entire area. People used to come to buy meat, and so that was the intention and so on. And it would have given these guys, a place to sell their produce, because other people would have been there. People would have gravitated. The people in the area would have gravitated right there. And it would have helped those guys tremendously when it comes to marketing their produce. And like I said, they did it because they want visibility. They want visibility, and they're visible. So, I mean, you put aside the environmental impact that the actions, what was done is caused and so on. Those guys are enterprising. They're enterprising young men. I am proud of them, but I am so sorry that, responsible individuals could not see, could not visualize and move to make plans to help these fellows. Our youth have been left behind. They have been left behind, and that is concerning, because they are the future of leaders.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling in again. I happen to know that those young men had expressed a level of frustration because they had asked their area representative to assist with taking away the debris after they had cleaned up. And they did not get a speedy response. So there is a level of frustration, and we cannot afford to leave our young people behind. I want you to wrap that very quickly, your final point, because all we've got is 18 minutes. Where has the time gone when we're having a lively discussion? So wrap up that point, and then we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to switch gears again. Yeah,
I mean, I can go back to the hub of activity that many have spoken about in the area, and we truly want to return that to Ginger. And I know the frustration. I mean, there have been frustrations prior to that. They have been getting the runaround in certain respects, and they feel that they are not getting the assistance because of established entrepreneurs in the area, if I may say that. But we can only honestly help if you're in touch with our constituents and with our people, and that is not happening at the level that it needs to happen, and at the point where people have the resources necessary to help our young people. Opportunities can continue to go down the gut, if I may use that expression.
Thank you. 16 minutes before 10 o'clock. We'll take a break, and then we'll come back for the final 15 minutes.
I say we tired, Mark say keep the momentum. Oh, Mr. Premier, where we get the energy from. I say we tired, time to protect the poor. Just remember, people matter more.
And we're back, and we're into the home stretch, the final 15 minutes. I think we've got a caller hot on the line. Good evening, caller.
Good evening, Mr. Manners.
Hi, good evening.
I was listening intently to the discussion regarding the clearing of the gut there at market shop by the young men who are interested in marketing their produce. And I'm at a loss to figure out exactly what environmental impact is being lodged against these young people. I mean, they're in a gut, for Christ's sakes. There are methods and procedures to stabilize if there's an issue of stabilization. There's terracing. There are mats that can be used to stabilize. So I don't see how is this such a drastic measure that these young men can no longer use that space, or are they being curtailed? I'm at a loss, because I mean, these are young people who are trying to show entrepreneurship, trying to make their way. It's the best thing to do to try to say, listen, you know what you guys did, you didn't get permission, if that's the case. But here is what we're going to do to help stabilize if there's an eventuality of erosion or any possibility of erosion. This is how we're going to deal with it. You know, and to me, that's a better solution to this challenge than anything else. I mean, you recall, I'm sure you're from Ginger, you know, there was a church right in the same area. There's a man, I believe, to sell or fix shoes, I think, in the same area. I mean, we are going about this thing as if, you know, there is no method to deal with any potential erosion. And I think we're being hyperbolic, really, by saying that it may undermine the roadway there. I mean, that's a bit exaggerated in my view, and that's my own view. I'm not an engineer. But certainly, the footprint that these young men could have made there, I don't think it's that drastic a footprint given the size of the area, and you know, without any sort of contour measuring done to try and stabilize what possibly could be an erosion of some sort. You know, and there are methods used. There are nettings that can be used. There are stakes that can be used. I'm sure Dr. Daniel Hodge, who is an acclaimed EIA specialist, she'll be able to give some advice on what can be done to stabilize the area if it needed a significant amount of stabilization. But to dismiss what the young men have done, I mean, if that's the case, I don't know the full story, but from what I've heard, you know, this is something that can be adjusted.
I don't think the caller was suggesting that they should be dismissed, but the caller was calling for greater cohesion, that people with the technical know-how and expertise should have assisted them. Well, instead, the guys were off on their own.
Exactly right. You know, and the work, I understand, was completed by young men. So if there's an issue, again, if there's an issue regarding erosion, then the powers that be from planning or whoever else can come in and say, listen, you know, this is how it should have been done. We're going to assist you to get it done. Amen. Full stop.
Well, caller, we're in the fix-it period. Whenever you're in the dying stages of an administration, you get things done quickly. The engineers will be moving in yesterday, I can assure you. Thank you for calling. We've got 12 minutes, and of course, I promise that we're going to switch gears. For the last, I think we've got another caller. It's busy. It's getting busy. Good evening, caller.
I would say that perhaps the person should ask someone who has been trained in urban development or a similar discipline, you know, the implications of what has been done. And I want to make clear that the way he slanted it is as if we are blaming the guys.
You certainly didn't.
I am not blaming the guys. Let me put it out there. The guys have done it because they need to sell their produce. They cannot afford to plant and have everything and have their produce rot away and lose all the inputs that they have invested in producing these crops. So let me ask the person to listen clearly and do not reinterpret what I said. You understand?
Yeah.
There's no blame being allocated to the young men. As I said, they're enterprising. I am proud of them. Being a farmer myself, I am proud of them. And I would say to him, there are environmental laws. Go look them up. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you've been lucidly clear. Now, 10 minutes is all the time we've got, and I know you've got to deal with another issue. For going on 9 years, we've been promised investors. We've been looking out to the horizon year after year, and there are no ships arriving. But, of course, last weekend, pictures and sightings of an investment down past the medical university came to light. It's the best kept secret in Nevis. What do you know about that, Dr. Daniel Hodge?
Well, before I get into that, I would just want to go back and address the issue that if we really care about empowering persons to contribute to the development of Nevis, then we would try to make sure that we have the necessary measures and guidelines in place. And so both callers just now, you can see they're very versed and they both understand agriculture to a great extent, but you can see where misinterpretation can lead to more damage rather than what good. And so this is one of the things that I am saying, we as a government, you must ensure that everyone is clear about the direction in which we're heading and what needs to be done. And as you know, you spoke about the development. Here is another example of where we're speaking about food security. We're seeing how people are trying to go above and beyond to contribute to food security. And the development that you spoke about is the development that is apparently on agricultural lands. And while you have people trying to, clean up alongside a ravine in order to maximize the sale of their products, if you had a proper program in place that deals with food security, that harness all of your agricultural lands to be used for that particular purpose. And as my good friend Wohan here would have mentioned, you need to have that holistic approach from planting the seed to selling the produce. That must be clearly defined. Now the development that you spoke of is over in the Potworks area, and I must say it was brought to my attention by a video that I saw circulating, and I inquired like most persons would, because we have been speaking about what developments are happening. And my good friend Chesley, she's my friend now because I heard her voice all the time, and I met her for the first time at St. James's at Sports. And once I heard that distinct voice, I said, "You're Chesley, right?" She said, "Yes." So for all this time, we've been saying, not nakip, right? And so I was quite alarmed to see the video of such a development going on in St. James area. And so I did some investigation to find out exactly what was happening. And thus far, I have realized that the property, almost 10 acres, was sold to, I don't know if it was sold, but is owned by the H-Trip. And
H-Trip, is that the same group for the Candy Resort?
Well, I am not going to say because I do not know.
But I did hear H-Trip being associated with Candy.
There is an H-Trip associated with Candy Resort where the unusual happened. But I am not going to say it's the same H-Trip, but it's a H-Trip. But what is interesting about that situation is that here you have government land when the Premier is saying that we are forced to buy land from private landowners because the government does not have sufficient land to provide affordable housing. Go on to say that when you have to purchase land from a private landowner, it is going to be more costly. And so on one hand, you have the Premier saying that we are forced to buy lands, but on the other hand, here you have the Minister responsible for housing and land making government land available to a private entity. But what makes it worse is that the private entity who would have acquired the property is not developing the property. It is then leased to another entity to develop. And so I would just speak very briefly about a similar situation that appears to be happening down at the Pinnis Beach area. An individual would have had a lease to a property, and as I understand it, that individual was asked to turn in the lease because he's not using the property, and then that lease is now being provided to another entity. So in this situation, the question, well, this age strip that does not have a lease, they actually own the property to the extent that they can now lease it. But how can you, normally when you're selling government land, there is a reason why you're selling that land, and there must be some benefit to the people of Nevis. I mean, this is not common for you to sell the people's land to someone for them to be able to then turn around and lease it. You would sell the land if you know there's going to be, for example, a major development and you can create jobs, and so you say, well, you know, this is a trade-off. We sell the people's land, the people will get work, etc. But here's a situation where you have this development, and what I have gathered is that this is supposed to be a research and technology park. Well, what type of research is to be done? And who really should be benefiting from that research? The Malcolm Gishard Park, it's was how many acres? Not 10 acres for sure. An EIA was done, public consultation was had, and this is a park, a recreational park, and you require an EIA so that the people can have some input. But here you have a research and technology park, and no EIA in sight. I'm not saying that one was not done, but no EIA in sight. No indication of what type of research and technology park it is. But most importantly, how come this project was not mentioned in any of the press conferences? And so the question must be asked, the age strip Candy Resort that went wrong, very wrong, and we know there was a court case, and so here you have age strip, started a development, not able to finish for whatever reason, may not be their fault, whatever reason it is, and here they are now having access to additional public lands and not using it for any purpose of their own. So why did they acquire that land? So that they can now lease it to someone else, and the people of Nevis has no idea what exactly is going on there. And so that is something that I think we really should be concerned about. What is happening at Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation? How can you sell the lands of the people? On one hand, people who are trying to get affordable houses have to be paying increased prices because the government is saying they have to buy private land. But at the same time, you're able to sell government land to an entity, and so who is really benefiting?
Let's just say for now, the unusual happened. You'll get a response from these microphones on Wednesday night. 1.5 minutes, 30 seconds to you to wish all the women folk happy International Day, and then Dr. Hodge, final minute belongs to you.
Well, the unusual happened. It sounds familiar. I think some time ago we sold some land in Newfound. It sounds familiar. So each trip has 2 portions of division land, and we can't understand what is happening there. So we have a potworks gate.
Potworks gate.
Potworks gate. I mean, a cloud of secrecy that is happening over there had it not been somebody venturing out and seeing what is happening. I mean, and the work is well advanced.
I went there on Friday afternoon after I saw it. It's huge.
Yeah, and divisions have been asking for jobs and a host of other things, and that's not forthcoming. But here we have a research and technology park that people don't know much about. International Women's Day comes up tomorrow. You know, Steve, women's contribution across the developmental landscape of the world has been lauded for years, from economic stability around the globe to women's rights and equal rights for men and women, as well as strong family ties. Women has continually contributed, and we want to wish them a wonderful Women's International Day tomorrow.
30 seconds is all the time you've got, Dr. Daniel Hodge, and of course you've got to remind people about your appearance on
tomorrow
Good Morning
morning,
SKN.
Yes, tomorrow morning, Good Morning SKN starts at 8 o'clock. The link would be shared on our Facebook page. And I'll say more of what I have to say there, but just to mention at this time that the world is a much better place when women are involved in decision making. We see the war that is going on right now in Ukraine. We see a lot of the issues dealing with the global pandemic, and we know that having women in these positions where they contribute to the decision making, then we find ourselves in a society that is much more tolerable and a society that is much more accommodating and a much better environment for us to live in. And so, International Women's Day, I'm happy that we have set some time aside to recognize that women, the involvement of women in decision making is critical to the sustainable development of our island.
On January 20th this year you made a post and you attributed it to Mayor Motley.
Yes.
You said that if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. That's our show. You've been listening to Your Voice with the NRP. Good night.
Good night.
Your voice, your voice, your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.
With all the power from the tower, this is the Powerhouse.